Welcome to the third our World Vape Show conference brought to you by ANZ. We have some great speakers over the next 3 days and some wonderful panels for you to listen, and it's wonderful to see so many people here with us this morning. I'm going to introduce our first speaker of the day, which is Sean Casey. And Sean is president and partner of Flavor Art North America. Now, Sean has been involved in advocacy and the industry for many years. He has founded the Canadian Vape Association in 2014, and over the last decade has stood on the board of every national vape trade association in the USA. He currently is a board member and an executive officer of sfata.org, the oldest and largest American non-for-profit vape trade association. Sean has more direct government relations experience with more direct meetings with government than any other single e-cigarette business executive both in the USA and Canada. And it is my immense pleasure to welcome him here today to speak with us. Sean, if you could please take the stage.
Welcome. I've entitled this seminar, Learn from My Mistakes. Obviously, in 10 years, a number of things happen in this industry, and they escalate very quickly. It's my opportunity today to talk to an emerging marketplace that hasn't yet experienced everything that we have experienced in both the United States and Canada. So the entitlement is, Learn from My Mistakes. I paid a little bit of money to the doorman the other night in the hotel, and I'm hoping I get across correctly this. I might butcher the pronunciation in Arabic, but Maravan isimi Sean Casey terasifu bimi riftika. I meant to say, my name is Sean Casey, and I'm honored to meet everybody here today. Might have been bad. I'm looking at the girl in the front. She's laughing. Okay, that might be good. Now, obviously, in 10 years, when you understand advocacy, we need to understand, for the first part, that there's no such thing as a professional advocate. There's no degree in advocacy. Being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a regulatory scientist, and any of the professionals that may exist here in the audience or out in the marketplace are not professional advocates. And certainly, an advocate for vaping is something new. We're fighting a war. And if we don't think that there's a war going on and that we're the enemy, then you're misunderstanding the situation. In the last 10 years, the first thing I needed to do when we talk about mistakes is understand these mistakes and how they are part of progress and how they're part of a learning process. So it's very important to understand from your mistakes this, and then understand these mistakes, I can't read that little slide down there, and how they can be both harmful and helpful. That's the second part, okay, of advocacy and understanding the progress. And then obviously identifying the positive opportunities that can help us come out of these mistakes and progress our industry. As an advocate, I'm only a businessman, but I'm a businessman that passionately believes in vaping. I passionately believe in harm reduction. And I passionately believe that it's a future opportunity for every adult smoker to have a cure from the leading cause of preventable death, which is tobacco. That's not as easy to communicate as I've learned. So a decade of learning what doesn't work. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. Because if we understand what doesn't work, you don't have to do it. I thought professional people that I worked with, lawyers, lobbyists, scientists, you know what, we all sat together. It wasn't just my stupid idea. It was a group of strong business people that were part of advocacy organizations, whether in Canada or the United States. And we sat down, we sought consultation professionally, and we thought, okay, there's a plan. Let's go to the government with this. And then you've realized, well, it doesn't work. And we didn't understand why things weren't working. So I've learned something from a psychologist, and it's an important part of every advocate's mindset, and it's a prototype, it's called a prototyping mindset. Because ultimately what we do is we try to do something, and in the notion that it doesn't work, we have to learn from it and then try again in a different way by reprototyping your strategy, your tactics, your methodology, your approach, who you're approaching, to move things forward relative to public policy on vaping. In this 10 years, I've been awarded a PhD. But in my case, unfortunately, it was a PhD of pounding my head against my desk, okay, by repeatedly being disappointed in our results. Clearly, I wish to tell you that I came from a nation that had superlative success and had won the war, and I'm here with a trophy that vaping has been proven, but that's not the case. North America has been at war for 10 years, and the war is not over. We are still in the midst of unbelievable, just mind-numbing sieges against our right to vape. So let's review some of these mistakes. It's kind of fun. This is a really easy seminar for me because I just got to be fallible. Okay, I got to be honest with you about what didn't work. But we will talk about some very specific opportunities and things that are global initiative valued towards opportunities that will help you all. So let's go over the mistakes as I see them. The formula is always the same for me. You try something, you fail. You try again by prototyping a new tactic, you fail. And that cycle goes on and on and on until you have success. And we have had success. I'm not going to brag, but Canada is the only global nation, certainly G7 nation, that changed the Tobacco Act and created its own regulatory framework just for vaping. It's never happened anywhere else in the world. I was involved with that. Did that mean that vaping is clean and easy and totally copacetic in Canada? No. Did it mean that we avoided excise taxation? No. Okay. Flavor bans? No. Okay. But we do have a situation where vaping in Canada is not tobacco. In Europe, vaping is tobacco. In the United States, clearly, vaping is tobacco. In Canada, vaping has its own regulatory framework, and we still have to build and fight for that framework. So mistake number one, and I'll say that it's a commonality of every advocate I've ever met. This is unique for me that I'm in Dubai. I've never been to the Middle East before, honestly, and it's a new crowd. If I was in America talking at some seminar, I would probably know half the crowd. They're very repeatable, okay? So the same person was at the last seminar, was at that one last year. But if I could just ask, raise your hand if you're a vapor. If you're listening to me out there, let me just see how many people in this actual audience are. So just keep your hand raised, okay? Are you in the business of vaping? So you vape and you're in the business of vaping. So like literally 4 or 5 of you, okay? So that is like making me question, what are you in the business of? But I'll find out later, hopefully. But the people that advocate for this industry are people that have the same story. And I've heard this story told 1,000 different ways, okay? Something led them to vaping, and vaping was an epiphany to them. They really believe, as I do, that vaping saved my life. In my own personal story that I recount millions of times, my uncle, who is 59, died of lung cancer as a smoker. My best friend died at 48, okay, of lung cancer as a smoker. I honestly believe that when I started vaping, God had told me, okay, your uncle died, your best friend died, you smoke, Sean, start vaping or you're the next statistic. And I really believe that, and I'm a pretty educated guy and pretty rational thought person, and I believe that vaping saved my life. Blind passion is a good thing, and it's a bad thing. Technically, blind passion is a comprehensive term descriptive of forces, conscious and unconscious, that propel the unenlightened person, me, okay, to think, feel, and act, speak, whether in happiness or sorrow, in such a way to cause, unfortunately, uneasiness, frustration, torment, pain, sorrow, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's the technical term for it. But it's what drives advocates, okay, in vaping. we have to have some source of energy to keep going, okay, to keep defending an industry that truly is indefensible. This is an indefensible industry to public health, and I'll talk about why. The lack of awareness, okay, of what we do in this industry and how it impacts others, the public that look at us optically, okay? If not controlled, advocates go off on a left-hand turn and they don't understand how they're being perceived, how they're representing this industry, okay, and cause more harm than good, quite frankly. They believe they're right, okay, and they're doing the best job that they can, and everything is up and up, but blind passion holds us back in many ways. And I can tell you that I could have a psychologist psychoanalyze every advocate that I have ever met, and he would say that each of them is driven by blind passion. And that's a good thing. The second mistake, quite frankly, folks, is ignoring our bad optics. You know, sitting in here, we're like part of a club, right? Everybody's vape-oriented here in this club, right? We all love vaping. We all believe in vaping in some way. We're making money from it. So if it's nothing but a belief in how to make money from vaping, we believe in vaping. But we don't understand optically how we're perceived. And quite frankly, folks, we're perceived terribly. I could tell you many times how our perception of vaping is not what the reality, okay, how the public perceives vaping. And in this case, their perception, not ours, is what's real. For us, it's very important to understand that this public perception or public relations is critical. It's critical to every business. In fact, okay, bad public relations has killed many Fortune 500 companies for lesser actions than we engage in on a daily basis in vaping. Innocently, not mindful, not trying to target youth. However, okay, the perception is terrible. In public relations, you will find that it's about how you respond to bad PR as an industry. It doesn't matter how BAT responds to bad press. Okay, if they're part of the vaping industry and the bad press is about vaping, okay, it's reflective on our brand, on our company, on our company's future, okay, on how our customers perceive us. And if we don't follow, okay, and this is like right from PR 101, if in the MBA, okay, regret, responsibility, reform, and restitution. Honestly, the very best companies that have PR, professional PR on their hand, do a mild job of this, okay? But we come from a fact that, let's just face it, we are the son of cigarette, okay? And that's how we're always perceived. We called ourselves e-cigarettes. What a bad name, okay? Honestly, the Chinese that built this industry back in 2007 built the initial devices to look identically like a cigarette, okay? We've obviously, okay, gone way beyond that, okay, typical, but I was there, and that's when I started vaping back in 2008, 2009, and that's all we vaped, you know, cigalikes, as we called them back in the day. So, you know, we need to understand how it's affecting you. Unfortunately, okay, you know, they say that if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Well, understand how we're perceived. In one online poll that was done last year, 63% of adults, okay, would disagree with a statement that vaping is healthier than cigarettes. That's public perception. Okay. A recent survey that was done just at the beginning of this year in America found that 71% of adults, these aren't children, adults, okay, agreed that vaping caused cancer. And when the interviewee in the survey asked what else they thought, they really didn't have any other things. But you know what's caught in their head? Vaping causes cancer. Okay? That's reality, folks. Okay? And that's the perception that we're judged by the government, by regulators, by people out there that are affecting vaping. So I don't know if you experienced this in your life. There's only 5 vapors in this audience. quite frankly. But as a vapor, who has a vape up here and is going to have a vape right now, you're going to find that people will come up to you and they're affected by, unfortunately, so-called scientific experts and opinions that are inaccurate, okay, that have affected their view. They'll tell you, do you know what's in them, Sean? You know, e-cigarettes cause popcorn lung. Don't you know that? E-cigarettes are more harmful than cigarettes are. Don't you know that? Thank you, okay, for that wise information. E-cigarettes will lead young people into vaping. And vaping is deadly. I heard that Americans died from vaping. That's one of my favorites, okay, living through. So these bad optics, okay, what we think we look like to others, well, we look like, okay, that we should be on the front of GQ, quite frankly, okay? We think of ourselves as all-star businessmen, and look at some of these businesses here. Total all-stars, professionals, unbelievable marketers, success, 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 okay? But what we sell and how we look to others is not that way. Because this is how tobacco control looks at us, okay? Okay, very negatively. I remember meeting a individual in America. He was a politician. He was involved in reform, and he honestly thought that vaping caused cancer. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? You're part of a committee that's going to regulate vaping. That's your information? He goes, oh, I got that from a staffer, right? No, okay? You know, this is what our friends and strangers that don't know what we're doing, okay? You know, like, I'm an old school vapor, so hey, guess what? Still 18650 battery, okay, rebuildable coil. I'm old school, right? I mean, now we've modded to these disposables and small little devices, but you know, in the old days when we had big vapes and we were chucking clouds like dragon vapors, okay, people would look at you and you didn't think strangely about it, but everybody else around you thought you were an alien, honestly. This is what the media thinks that we're planning to do, okay? We have a grand design, okay, to hook kids, okay? They firmly, firmly believe that, and nothing that we have done has changed that thought pattern. The anti-vapes, I call anti-vapes NGOs, okay? Scientists being paid for research by whomever, okay? They absolutely believe in the gateway theorem, okay? Even though it's been completely and scientifically reviewed not to exist, okay? They will use it against us again and again and again, okay? You know, the funny thing is, who we really are, okay, look around you. Look around you in this audience. We're just regular people. We're adults, we're professionals, we're fathers, we're mothers, okay? You know, some of us here, I could see, you might even be grandfathers, okay, and we vape, okay? And we found vape as a recreational form of nicotine. We found it as something to get us finally off of cigarettes. I smoked for 25 years before I started vaping. I would have kept smoking till the day I died of lung cancer if I didn't find vaping. I love nicotine. Bottom line, I'm completely comfortable admitting that. You know, when I was looking at this presentation, I was doing my research and I was trying to grab some files. I started looking around at the optics, thinking about the optics of it, and I found over 200 well-documented, very good optics, okay, of kids vaping. You know what I couldn't find? And I challenge each one of you, please come over, get my email, send it to me if you can prove me wrong. Find a mature adult, like this good-looking gentleman in the blue jacket in the front row here. Find a picture online on Google of him vaping. Okay? It doesn't exist. I couldn't find one in over an hour of looking, right? So we don't exist, okay? I remember there was a guy in America named Mitch Zeller. I met with him a number of times. He used to be the head of the Center for Tobacco Products for the FDA. And he stood up one time at a national health seminar and said that full-time adult vapors were an allegory. even though there's 10 million plus of us in America, okay, he didn't want to even understand that we exist. He would say that we might be dual users, that we smoke still and we vape when we go out to a restaurant, okay, or when we're around our family. But he would not identify the fact that a full-time vapor exists. That's how bad the optics are. So mistake number 3 that I've made is not strategically reacting to the anti-vapes, the NGOs of this world. For us, okay, American Cancer Society is one of the worst. Tobacco-free kids, there's a whole slew of them. Okay, God only knows one of the richest guys in America drops about $200 million a year just to throw at these guys for misinformation. Their nuclear weapon, and can you guess what that nuclear weapon is? Children, right? It is an absolute devastating tool to kill vaping. And quite frankly, exists, okay? We might want to deny global warming, but we can't deny that kids vape, okay? We can't disassociate ourselves from the fact that kids vape. I don't know what the numbers are, going up, going down, by nation, what product, who it is. I don't want to blame Juul, as many FDA guys have done, okay? But the fact is that when I looked at the Middle East here and referenced this seminar into specifically how it's affecting you, okay? Here's a couple headlines, guys. In your media, okay, written in Arabic, okay, that I've Google translated, okay? E-cigarette ads targets millions of kids, CDC says. And everybody wants to use the FDA and the CDC as gold standards. Okay, well, if they say it's true, right? It's just like we like to use Public Health England, okay, and that study as a global standard. 4 marketing tactics e-cigarette companies use to target youth. E-cigarettes, flavored products fuel a youth addiction crisis. Adolescent vaping, a sweet target for profit. 8 top strategies Big Tobacco used to target kids with e-cigarettes. That's how they're framing the narrative, okay, that creates public perception, that is that reality that causes those adults in America to say that e-cigarettes cause cancer. They have framed the narrative. It's all around kids, okay, and we're doing nothing. Health worries swirl as Middle East gets hooked on vaping. Okay, that's enough. I could go on, though, okay? I could go on and on and on. Here's my favorite line, that California spent, the state of California in the United States spent over $30 million, okay, on generating this, okay? Vaping, it's the next generation cigarette for the next generation of addicts. They spent whops and whops and whops of money, okay, on pushing through that narrative, okay, to us. So mistake number 4 for North American advocates was we didn't counterfact the monsters when they were small. And what I mean by that is there's a whole group of scientists, doctors, medical professionals, researchers, okay, supposed health advocates that supposedly have a job designing to protect the public from bad health. And they've decided that they can get money to process misinformation, and they process it ad infinitum. So if you look at them, you'll see that right now, okay, the MEA market, the Middle East African marketplace, doesn't have many yet, but okay, one that I really dug deep to find, and I really hope he's here because I'd love to debate him. Okay, if anybody knows him, give him my business card. I'll take his call. I'd even go to Abu Dhabi to meet him, to debate him. But here's your first, right? Here's a medical oncologist, professional guy at some professional medical clinic that obviously doesn't mean anything to me, but it might mean somebody that lives here in the UAE, okay? And this guy is there to make money, okay, to take funding to say that he's an anti-vape hero. He's the monster. He's the first monster that I've been able to identify. I've got 100 monsters in Canada and the United States, okay? And we didn't... My mic go off? No, it's back. We didn't fight against them, okay? We didn't counterfactual. Okay, there's a guy named Clive Bates, he's a hero of mine in the vape industry from UK, and he has a thing called The Counterfactual. Okay, it's a great blog. If you don't read it, okay, get onto it. Okay, he's not funded. He doesn't take private funding. He's just a one-man army. But we didn't, as advocates, counterfact these guys. 80% of the time, we could break it down. We had guys like Farsanilos, the Greek doctor, Peloso, the Italian doctor, supporting us, but we didn't invest enough money to say, and let me just swear for one word, okay, it's bullshit, okay, and we're not going to take it, right? Those guys did. We did not, as advocates, fight hard enough and invest enough money into that. And here's the thing. I came to terms, and I've asked probably 8 or 10 people, okay, if there's any formalized advocacy or organization here in the Middle East, and so far I haven't heard it, but it's crazy important. In the United States, our problems with advocacy is that we made it competitive. We fragmented the marketplace. There wasn't one vape group, there was 2, there was 3, there was 4, and all of a sudden we started fragmenting the funding, and it became like little cliques, okay, popular clubs. Well, I belong to the so-and-so org. Well, I belong to the so-and-so org. And everybody, depending on their business alliances, started joining one and the other. We were competing for funding, and we were competing strategies. Because again, advocates are not necessarily smart, they're just well-intentioned, right? Okay, they don't have a master plan, there's no golden solution, there's no cure, okay, to the ailments, okay, for the future of vaping, except fighting the future, okay, and doing your best job. The industry also did not provide enough funding. Guys, I would venture to guess, okay, that there's over $100 million being spent at this trade show just to be here. Argue that, okay, okay. There needs to be more than that spent every year, okay, on defending the opportunity. Because guess what? I had to fly 14 hours to come see a vape show. You know why? Because there used to be 75 of these in the United States alone, 10 in Canada. Guess how many there is today? None. There's not one opportunity for a vape conference to exist in North America. They're all gone. The organizers of this event, beautiful event, are all gone. Half of these big companies in the United States, again, all gone, right? Would it be nice to invest in that future to carry on this beautiful industry of public health safety? We also, very importantly, and I don't mean to be critical of any company or any ethnicity or anything, but we focused on innovation. We're looking for technological developments. We were constantly going to build the V2, okay, the V3, the newest, the prettiest, the coolest gadget device. That was what we invested into. Not just as manufacturers from China or distributors here or as retailers, okay, we just wanted the next thing. We just kept thinking that to make vaping better, we were going to come up, and hey, listen, I'm to blame too. You know what? Okay, I'm constantly inventing new flavors. I would say that flavor art is represented by more than 40% of this crowd in the liquids that are represented here. Proudly, I probably invented half of those flavors that went into those devices. We should have been investing in advocacy. And I can proudly say that our company was making that investment. But the industry was not in North America. There was not enough investment to carry it forward. So, guys, here are the opportunities. Invest in advocacy. There's a lot of reasons that this is very important, okay? And there's guys in this marketplace that could lead you, that could offer consultancy. I would say go to the biggest and best. I already said to Hugo, you know, companies like yours have to organize and be leaders in this. Without it, okay, I fear, okay, that without any defense, this trade show, I'd put $10,000. I'll take the bet with anybody here. $10,000. Without advocacy, this show does not exist in 3 years. Okay, anybody wants to take that bet, meet me over in my booth. You need to make major investment in public relations. I can tell you about a number of things that we have created, okay, that are very, very important relative to public relations. We understand exactly who to attack and who to target relative to public relations, and that includes, please, adult smokers. One such thing I'd like you to look up that I was involved in creating, although it's not my property, okay, is a thing called Reg Watch, or Regulator Watch. It was something that we literally have interviewed over 470 of the top scientists, health officials, FDA, Health Canada, and that's a product that you guys, it's literally turn and burn. It's off the shelf. You could take and turn it into this marketplace today, or any market around the world. We're now doing GFN coverage with Reg Watch. It's a very effective tool for public relations. More than anything, guys, something you need to talk about is responsible industry movements. The industry has to take responsibility for innovation towards preventing youth uptake in this industry, okay, to make sure there's product standards, to make sure there's customer protections. Okay, I'm a big believer in track and trace software, which is off the shelf that we could be using today, but we're not. And these are mistakes, guys, that are opportunities for you, that if we had thought of them 8 to 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had to go through what we went through, which is literally a dire situation right now in North America. We have to protect youth access. There's a number of things that we can do very simply if organized under a trade advocacy organization, so we're all singing from the same song sheet, that we need to do, because the industry, to remain viable, has to ensure that there is an opportunity for us to be responsible. We need to be responsible. If we let the government, okay, be responsible for youth uptake, you know what they do? Flavor ban, okay, more tax, okay, and then eventually just destroy us with misinformation and bad public relations. And the industry is over. There's a number of programs out there that I don't want to sell you anything that are available. One that I'd like you to look at, it's being presented, okay, by myself, okay, to Dr. Cardiff, the head of the FDA, in 3 weeks, okay. It's a controlled industry network. Doesn't cost anybody anything, but it literally sort of is a closed network, okay, that ties everybody together. And I'm not going to go long on it. I only have a half an hour. But if you just go to rin.org, okay, you can see this program. It's being adopted now in Canada. We're sitting down with some people in New Zealand. And it is something that is public IP that you could get a free license to, maybe some consulting dollars to teach you through it. But it is the solution for the industry, okay? Basically, it starts with a UPC code on every box and bottle and carries all the way through the supply chain to retailer. It allows the government to have access to data, and they need consumer data to understand who is actually vaping. And we believe, under much consultation, and this was largely developed actually by the last FDA commissioner, a guy named Dr. Scott Gottlieb. We literally took advisement from a past guy to sort of put together the thought process. So I could go on about this, but understand this. Learn from these mistakes, folks. This is a young marketplace. It's buoyant. Look at how I remember the days that I was surrounded by friends and clients, okay, in California or New York City or Toronto, Canada at a show like this. It doesn't exist. Okay, and all of these mistakes, okay, are going to be yours if you don't look for opportunities to correct them. If you think that you can somehow bypass this, I'm going to tell you, what took 10 years to destroy the industry and the opportunity for a future for vaping in North America will take less than 3 years here. Okay, so your countdown just got really escalated, right? So Every one of the things that I made as mistakes, that the industry made as a mistake, are going to be yours.